Hello YouTube. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but quite a lot of things have happened over the past few weeks. So this video is going to be talking about me going over why I ruptured my Achilles 2 weeks ago, the reasoning behind that, why I think that happened from my point of view, and there's a lot of things you can take away when kind of assessing or looking at your own injury. And the potential reasons behind that, and what you can do to start that rehab process or potentially prevent injuries in the future. Again, injuries happen, but there's definitely things you can do to mitigate the risk as much as possible. So we'll dive into it. I'll just make myself a little bit smaller, get myself out of the way. So I did Tembe Ironman at the end of September, and then I ruptured my Achilles 2 weeks ago, just doing some double unders. So I did like a set of 20, so just a bit of skipping, and then heard a gunshot sound and it went. I knew I'd ruptured it straight away. And so I've kind of broken it down into these 5 things. They're quite simplistic, but I'll just chat through these and kind of my thoughts on potentially some of the reasons why it happened. So I think the main one, which is up here, main 2 really, is leading up to the back end of my Ironman training. So probably like 2 to 3 months out from September, from Tembe, I was not doing enough of this stuff, if any, to be honest. I was still doing a little bit of plyometrics, so a little bit of jumping, but I was really neglecting just simple calf raises. So like I wasn't really doing any of that, if I'm completely honest. And there was definitely, I've always had a slight deficit anyways, left to right, because I ruptured my left Achilles tendon, and that has always been, it's been an issue before that with, my left side being weaker in terms of jumping on my single leg. So neglecting those 2 things is a massive issue, because my calf strength as well as my load tolerance to forces and jumping was much lower, and obviously they essentially I need to be as strong and as resilient as I could leading up into the Ironman to actually cope with the demands of the marathon after the bike ride, from like a fatigue point of view, and also like biomechanics, like running properly under a lot of fatigue. Next thing, running capacity. Now, I don't think this was an issue. Like, the volume I did of running was absolutely fine, and yeah, I didn't think that was an issue leading up to it, but I do think, it was calf strength and plyometrics was the main thing. So I don't think running capacity was an issue. Load management, so coming out the back end of the Ironman, I think this was an issue. So I think I went into things a little bit too quickly, but I'll explain why that isn't as important as the calf strength and the plyometrics. And then recovery time kind of ties in. I kind of underestimated the amount of time it would take me to recover from the Ironman. It probably took me, realistically, 4 to 5 weeks to fully recover, based on my resting heart rate. I was probably doing a little bit too much too soon. Okay. The reason why this load management thing doesn't matter as much is because I believe towards the back end of Ironman training, and when I started doing the run, I developed what's called a tendinopathy in my Achilles. So essentially, the tendon starts to become irritated, and it starts to degenerate, essentially because too much load is being put through it, and ways to mitigate that is obviously, before you start to up running volume with the Achilles, is calf strength plyometrics, which I neglected, and with the Achilles, which is really interesting. So you'll have a similar thing at the knee if you haven't got knee pain, like that anterior knee pain, where it's like a tendinopathy. It'll be like a dull, achy pain, and you'll notice it. But with a lot of Achilles tendinopathy, it's what's called a silent tendinopathy. So the tendon's degenerating and getting worse, but you don't feel it. There's no symptoms. So essentially, I think that's what's happened towards the back end of Ironman training, carried through to the Ironman. The tendon's getting worse and worse and worse, and then I've done the Ironman, fatigued myself even more, haven't fully recovered, and I've gone back into doing quite an explosive movement, a double under, and then it's gone. So that's the kind of reasoning behind that. some things that you can take away from this, just in general, from like a rehab or an injury point of view. What I didn't do, I didn't think, I've ruptured my Achilles. It's like it's complete chance, or it's just like one of those things that happens. Like, I didn't think that, and you shouldn't think that when you've got an injury. There's always a reason behind it. It might not be one thing, but again, it could be a range of things. And as you can see from this, this is being very simple, but even here you've got 5 different things. It's not like one simple thing that's happened. Another thing that I didn't think when I ruptured my Achilles is it was the double unders, because again, it's very unlikely to be a specific movement that is the cause of the injury. The double unders, if you imagine like a piece of rope, and over time, gradually, like someone is just with some scissors, they're just gradually chopping and more off, and the strands are just getting thinner and thinner and thinner. That's what was essentially happening to my Achilles tendon, and then the double unders was like that last little bit that went. So again, it wasn't the root cause; it was just the thing that finished me off, so to speak. So again, with any other kind of tendon issues around the knee or the shoulder, don't think it's that particular movement. Usually, like it's a pattern, and previously you've gone into it too quickly. You haven't done the correct strength and plyometric work and movement prep, and allowed your body just time to adapt. Because again, we know with tendons, they take a lot longer to grow and to adapt to load compared to muscles. So a lot of the time when people go into things, they go into CrossFit, and you're doing a lot of movements with your knees, with your shoulders. Your muscles will adapt a lot quicker than the tendons, and that's when we tend to get issues, because then the tendons become irritated. I'm not saying it's going to lead to a rupture, because that is very, very unlikely with those things. It's obviously quite likely when you're doing something as physically demanding as an Ironman, just because the risk is much higher with the Achilles, the amount of running volume you're doing. But it can still be an issue with the knee and with the shoulder. But again, number 2, there is, it's not a specific movement. It's a pattern of things, and it's a cumulative build-up. And then number 3, another really useful thing I didn't think about when I ruptured my Achilles. I didn't think in my head, I'm never going to be able to do X again. And I know that's all well and good because I'm a physio and I kind of know the background of the injury, but it's just about having that mindset of, as soon as I've ruptured it, that's happened, what can I do now to load it? So for example, at the moment I'm not in a boot, I'm in a back slab. What can I do around the injury, but also what can I do to just get the calf working, even if it's just like trying to get the calf to contract while it's in the back slab. You don't want to go into it with a mindset of being overly cautious, because a lot of the time with injuries or surgery or whatever it is, if you're overly cautious, it usually has like a worse impact further down the line. A lot of the time with things, in my experience, you're actually better being a little bit more aggressive, and then if things are too painful or you've progressed too quickly, then you can rein it in a bit, and you kind of got that ceiling. You know where your ceiling is. Whereas if you're too cautious and you don't progress things and you don't try to load the injured area at all, and you completely avoid any pain, you can end up going backwards. So again, like when I'm doing exercises with the back slab, I'm trying to get my calf to work. Like, I'm expecting a little bit of pain, and a few days after the op, which was last week, it was really painful. And then as I just got used to it, and as I tried to contract the calf more, the pain just decreased day by day by day, and I just weaned myself off the painkillers, and again, just trying to get blood to the area, trying to get it moving. So those are kind of the main 3 things again, that you can take away into your injuries or into any tendon issues that, again, you might be getting at the Achilles, the knee, or the shoulder. And hopefully you found that useful. Any questions, just drop them in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you want more injury or training related content.